Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Mario Chaos and the Kid Show. I'm your host, Mario Mancini. I'm a former WWE wrestler and co-instructor at Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling, along with Pretty Paul Roma, Big Steve Tracy, and the man behind the glass tonight, and every night we do this, Mr. Paul Perez, are the instructors at Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling. Seated to the right of me for this podcast and every podcast is a man who's the 2019 inductee into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. He's done it all, folks. Soup to nuts, if you will. Manager, wrestler, referee, valet, you name it, he did it. Fluffer in the professional wrestling business. And he is the guardian of chaos. He is Big Daddy.
And seated to the left of me is a man who brought his library card because he's checking you out. And that is the Kid. Kid Mancini, here we are, Mario Chaos and the Kid podcast, episode number 5.
The Kid is to the left of me today.
I noticed that this is per director Paul Perez.
I'd like to go to the WWE report right now with the Kid.
Wait, you're just cutting me right off like
that,
Mancini?
I'm sorry. Usually when I go to
a lot of changes coming in quick.
The WWE report with the Kid, usually you cut me off quick.
You're
usually go to that right now.
Oh, hey, that was pretty good, Mancini. You're usually sleeping by the time we get to the WWE report. But, folks, we are coming to you live from the Diadamo and Tracy Bail-Bond studio here at the Paradise Alley Professional Training Facility. And it's great to be here. And I'm going to say that to say this. Silence is golden, but duct tape is silver. So, Mancini, what do you got this week? There's a lot of things going on. The Kid is here. Look at the Kid. He's like a walking billboard for Nike Sports.
I only wear Nike. Nike and Vineyard Vines. That's it.
You know, that the Kid kind of reminds me of Tom Brady.
You know what?
Nope.
Listen, I will say he's got that boyish good looks of Tom Brady.
He's got that jib, you know what I mean? He's got that model-looking jib.
I don't want to be Tom Brady.
Well, listen, if the women out there between 18 and 20,
we got this compliment, Daddy. We got this kid sitting next to us here at the show, and we look like two walruses. What's going on here?
Well, you are right about that. Let me tell you something. And I said this 3 seconds ago before I got interrupted. And that's why I hang out with two other people. Because in case a conversation breaks out, I don't have to be involved, Mancini.
I understand this.
The Kid does have similarities to Tom Brady. He doesn't like him. I get it. He's got this whole, I get the whole Tom Brady thing. But the 18 to 25 demographic, all you have to do is go to YouTube, go to Open Table Sports. It's on the podcast and the YouTube, and you will see the Kid. Listen, I did see Open Table Sports, Mancini. It won't take too long to figure out who's the good-looking guy of the bunch, if you know what I mean. It was quite an eclectic group of podcasters on Open Table Sports.
Young men from the University of Bridgeport.
Is that where they're from, UB?
University of Bridgeport, right on the campus, too.
Oh, by the size of some of the guys that look like the University of Burgers.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Listen, I will say this for Open Table. The guys are well-versed in their craft. I'm not saying I like their tactics. They got to bring a little more piss and vinegar to the Open Table Sports, and let's not get into that.
Listen, we got into the piss last week, Big Daddy. I'd like to...
Pissed off or pissed on?
Well, that was the issue.
Are we still debating that?
We're still debating whether it's better to be pissed off or pissed on. I myself are not into that. Into a lot of other things, but not that.
Did I tell you about Harry Fuji?
Yeah,
I think I did.
Yeah. Don't let me get into a story about Virgil.
Mancini, it's funny that you should bring that up because that's one of the first questions I had before we got to the Paradise Alley news, because Friday Night Alley Fights is this Friday. Now, I don't know when this is going to be podcasted. I don't know when it's going to be broadcasted. I don't know when it's going to be on the air, but fans, don't miss it. But we'll get on to Friday Night Alley fights in 1 second in Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling this coming weekend. Tell us about Virgil Mancini. You opened up the can of worms, and now I want to hear it.
Well,
WWF, WWE Virgil, Ted DiBiase's bodyguard. Kid, are you paying attention?
I'm answering these questions. I got a Q&A going here.
He's got a Q&A during the podcast. Good, Mancini, it's you and I. Tell the fans out there, because everybody's listening.
Well, Big Daddy, what do you want to know about Virgil?
Well, Mancini, there's a lot of stories and a lot of rumors, and I know
Mike
you were
Jones.
you were very, very close with Virgil. And I know you guys did a lot of things and have traveled the roads together. I am well aware of that. So go ahead.
Well, let's just say,
Listen up, fans.
when the toilet got clogged, you were able to grab Virgil by the waist and snake it and unclog it.
Mancini, listen, now, fans, I just want to give you the visual of the movie with J-Lo and Ice Cube. Are we familiar with that movie?
What's the name of it, Big Daddy?
Anaconda. So that's what you're trying to say about Virgil. Listen, Perez said it best in last week's podcast. It's on Stitcher, folks. It's on ParadiseAlleyProWrestling.com. It has the very explicit warning, kind of like the NWA from back in the day, and I don't have to break down what it is. Everybody knows I want to be politically correct. This is what you get here on Mario Chaos featuring
I spoke
the Kid.
to the Roman.
Oh, boy. I can imagine what Roma's viewpoint of the podcast is.
To the Roman.
Is that the erectile dysfunction medicine?
Roman would like to keep it a little PG.
Is that coming straight from Roman?
Is coming straight from the Roman.
This coming from a guy who literally could have portrayed Nick the Dick in the movie Bachelor Party. The foot long, if you know what I'm talking about. The waiter that was at the strip club. So, Roma, I get it, Roma. You know I love you like a brother. You're a legit badass, Roma. But guess what? You're not here right now to stop us. Now, listen, I challenge you, Roma, to come down here to 662 Cole Avenue, East Haven. And listen, I'm not going to do anything about it, Paul. And guess what? Neither is anybody else.
Yeah.
Listen, speaking of Roma, I get confused when you say Roman because right away I go to my phone and what's the number one app on my phone? The Roman erectile dysfunction page.
Well,
and you know why? Because I sent it out to all the boys because I know when they're
let
on
me
the
clarify
road.
this since
Well, what am I doing? What?
Well, let me clarify this since I'm pretty damn close to the guy. What I call his philosophies and when he teaches, it's Romanisms.
Well, I'm looking at one of the Roma-isms that's here down at Paradise Alley facility. And kid, now everybody hold it. Stand up, kid, and walk over there, and I want you to repeat it back to me and Mancini, because this is what Mario's talking about when it comes to Roma-isms. And Roma, I hope you like this part. And no one's challenging Roma, we know. Kid, read it off, and then we're going to say it again. Fans, listen up. Here's one of the Roma-isms here at the training facility.
Roma rules. There's one trainer, and it's Roma. When Roma's talking, keep your mouth shut. And rule number 3, see rule 1 and 2.
So, fans, you get that? In other words, it's Roma's house.
Here's a blank number 4.
Well, kid, hey, listen, what are we going to give him on that presentation? An A, a B?
Well, I'd give an A on that. See, Big Daddy, he puts that up because Wednesdays and Saturdays, he's teaching, and when the guys start wrestling, maybe a veteran student will try to correct somebody, and that's what he means that there's only, there's one instructor. You know what I mean? I had to curb the guys on Monday nights myself. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm well aware of that. And now
the way
that
we curb them, Big Daddy, is simply saying, shut up. Kind of like when the chief used to tell me to shut up and sit down.
Well, It's amazing, Mancini. We must be on the same wavelength tonight because the chief said, ears open, Mancini, head down and mouth shut, because you were literally a boy in a man's world. And he said that to you.
I did.
Your second match in Warwick, Rhode Island, when Dr. D broke your fucking nose in 2 places.
I'll tell you what, I love Dr. D. And this is the point I'm trying to make, because, you know, the word hate is strong, but there are people I kind of hate in this business, but Dr. D's not one of them. Even
of course not.
He broke my nose in 2 places, but for my brother David, I'd like to say his book, Don't Call Me Fake, could be found on Amazon and has been a big success.
Well, I believe he's coming up on the New York bestsellers list. That may be made up. I don't give a fuck. I don't know if it's true.
Well, I gotta tell you, I have 2 pages in it.
Yes, I am well aware of that.
He describes how he breaks my nose, but the heater has like 6 pages.
Well, it's
because he was a bounty hunter with him.
See, Mancini, this is what I like. You doing your homework, because you're like an elephant kid. You're like Mike Francesa in many ways. You don't forget anything. You're right. On the tree of woe, so to speak, Dr. D broke your nose. Big Steve was trained with Dr. D as a bounty hunter.
Yes.
And yours truly also had the opportunity to work for
Dr. D,
the original bad boy himself.
Yep.
And that crazy bastard sent me all the way to Tennessee to sleep outside this guy's house for 5 days and nights, Mancini. He came home on the 5th day, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, apparently intoxicated from what we could see. My partner, Big Bird, to the back, me to the front. Oh, Big Bird. You think Big Steve Tracy's big? This guy had nothing on Big Steve Tracy. We slammed the doors down with sledgehammers, go in there, a bunch of kids on the floor, find the bastard all the way upstairs, hiding under a bed, chain him up, link him up, belly chains, leg irons, the whole 9 yards, throw him in the back of the town car, drive something like 12 or 13 hours all the way back to Connecticut. He pissed and shit himself. We bring him back to Dr. D. And it was the wrong bond. You know what Dr. D said? We thought we were getting like maybe 10 grand. Well, it wasn't to be. He said, well, you got him, didn't you? I said, yes, doctor, we did. Well, this is what you get. Here's your payday. And we took it and we left. Because I didn't want to get my nose broken either. Even though I had a gun. Dr. D is no one to be trifled with.
You know, if you had a gun with Dr. D, he had a grenade and a missile launcher.
He sent me to a crack house in the Bronx.
Big Daddy, let me ask you something. Just out of curiosity. When you pick up a guy like that and you have to drive so far, don't you kind of get to know the guy?
No. You leave him in the back and you let him piss and shit.
Well, let me ask you something, though. Was it just a plain back seat?
No, it was
a truck? Was it a like one of those Marshall?
Are you really asking this question?
I am, because I wouldn't.
It was legal. You know that, right?
Well, listen, I wouldn't.
I had the police near me. You know that, right? Law enforcement. You know that, right?
I know that, but
in the trunk of the car, Mancini. We threw him in the trunk of the town car.
Oh.
You had to get that out of me. The Lincoln Town Car. We threw him in the trunk of
I was going to say, because I couldn't help but get to know the guy that long of a drive.
I didn't need to know him. I sat outside his house for 5 days, and you know what? Not only did he piss and shit himself all the way back in the back of the town car, I believe I pissed and shit myself outside his house for 5 days, too.
Well, let me ask you something. Big Daddy, let me ask you something. Did you at least throw him a burger in there?
We threw him nothing, because we never stopped. We didn't stop. Well, we may have stopped once. Maybe once. Get him and get home. Money's waiting.
Did you throw him a sandwich?
Nothing.
Back there?
Threw him nothing.
Water?
Nothing. Nothing. Not a damn thing. And it was legal. It was legal.
That's unbelievable, Big Daddy.
Those are this. Listen, that's when.
What you call that inhuman?
I would call that justified, seeing that the man was wanted for assaulting somebody with a baseball bat, Mancini.
You sure it wasn't
very
Virgil
vicious
and it wasn't a person?
So we're going back to Virgil.
Sure wasn't Virgil. It
Fans.
wasn't a baseball bat.
And I'm going to say that to say this. Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling this Friday night, Mancini. Anaconda is the code word for tonight. Fans, anytime we say Anaconda, take out your cocktail, your beverage of choice, and take a sip of it.
I got really scared on that one.
Okay? No. What did you think I was going to say, Mancini?
I thought you were going to say something totally different.
Listen, now that we got down to the logistics of, let's tie this up with a little bow, the connection of Mancini, David Schultz, the original bad boy that slapped the shit out of John Stossel. The legendary story. The kid probably doesn't even know about that. Throw in Big Steve Tracy and then my history. We're all connected. Because getting back to tie this up in a little bow, wasn't it your very next match in Ontario, Canada?
It wasn't my very next match, but it was 3 weeks after.
All right, so I'm close. Often wrong, never in doubt, Mancini.
It was in Hamilton, Ontario, and it was TV taping. And I looked up on the board, and it said Schultz v. Mancini, and I said, they think I'm going to take my boots off and run because I'm just coming off freshly healed from a broken nose, you know. And they put me back in with the guy. But I have news for them. I said, yeah, fuck it. And I went back in there again. I didn't care.
Right. And that's why by the time 1988-89 rolled around, Mancini, just to reminisce with your career and for the fans out there and for the history, listen, Mancini's well documented. Irish Whipcast, In Your Head. He's unbelievable on In Your Head podcast, YouTube, WWF, WWE. It goes on and on. But by that time, Mancini, just to give everybody a flashback, you had already had your hair cut by Beefcake 3 times? Yeah. You were spray painted by the adorable Adrian Adonis. You were telling Savage he was overshooting you and dropping the elbow too hard on your sternum. You were telling DiBiase, hey, Ted, did you have to smack me in the back of the head so fucking hard to wake me up? This is what the fans don't realize about Mancini. And this is where it all ties into the bow of why I started off with going back to Dr. D and then the history that we have with him and certain things that have happened in your career. You never did get that opportunity, did you, Mancini?
No, I didn't. But, it's funny that we bring this stuff up because, I just came from my therapist because I see a therapist because I'm all fucked up.
You pay Steve Tracy to see
No,
you?
No, I don't pay Steve Tracy.
Well, I thought he was your therapist.
But you know what? It's funny because, for the wrestling fans back in the 70s and 80s, the ones who saw the Frankie Williams.
Who
was the little Spanish
Haiti
guy?
kid.
Who was that? Steve King!
Steve King. I thought you were talking about the Haiti kid. Look at Perez from behind the glass. He shouted that out.
Perez nailed that.
Listen, Perez is phenomenal.
He worked with your dad. For everybody
See,
doesn't
fans,
know.
this is what you get here.
Perez's mother and father were pro wrestlers.
We said that last week,
right.
But this is what you get here, what Perez just said.
Right. Steve King, Frankie Williams, S.D. Jones. You know what I mean? These guys were highly respected.
Pete Doherty, Pete Sanchez. I mean, the list goes on. Luis Rivera.
These guys were highly respected in the dressing room. By the time 89, 90 came around, I was a little frustrated. So I started speaking up a little bit, you know what I mean? Because I was aggravated. I was stuck in the same spot.
Do you know why? Do you know why I would have been aggravated too, Mancini? Because I don't give a fuck. Okay? You didn't get your opportunity, kid, and you worked and served the company. And then you look at other people, and I won't throw any names out there, Brooklyn Brawler. I won't throw any names out there, Steve Lombardi. I won't throw any fucking names out there, Mancini. But look at people like that held on to the company for 20 years. They were no more loyal than you. They certainly weren't better than you. Now, maybe they did something different than you. So if you could just give me a little rundown on, listen, you don't have sour grapes. You're the most humble guy I know. You've got to be very proud of your career, and look what you're doing now. But let's go back to the 80s when you you went right from wrestling school, and if you were good enough, you made it into the World Wrestling Federation. None of this bullshit into the indies and dwelling in that. You were that good. That's how it was different back then. Right from wrestling school, right to the WWF.
Right from high school, right to the WWF.
Right. And no one else has done that, Mancini. So for you to not get a chance, I don't give a shit who's listening. I wanted to bring this up. You never got your shot, Mancini. Someone like, and I'm not going to say any names, Brooklyn Brawler. Break it down, Mancini. Patterson.
Well,
Brooklyn
Big Daddy,
Brawler.
Big Daddy,
And then maybe a Joey Morella impersonation.
Big Daddy, you've done a good job with your homework.
I'm sorry, Mancini. I had to bring it up.
And Big Daddy, you've known me for years. We go back like 8 tracks.
Mancini, like a recliner.
Yeah. So you know damn fucking well you struck a nerve. And you know you did.
Mancini.
You know, listen.
So you're saying this was done with intent? Just remember,
Listen.
Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape.
Here's the deal, Big Daddy. Here's the deal.
Go ahead, Mancini.
I was an excellent wrestler.
Agreed.
I was able to hang with Bret Hart in house shows.
Agreed.
Mike Sharp and I worked a match one time. We came back to the dressing room and Valentine looked at us and said, how the hell am I supposed to follow that?
Quite the compliment.
So God gave me the talent.
For sure.
But I didn't get a break.
Again, agreed.
Well, you see, Big Daddy, because I like women. See, I don't like cock. See, if I liked...
Wait, Mancini, I wasn't trying to go down that road.
If I liked cock...
Wow.
Then maybe...
We're off the rails this week.
Maybe I would have caught a break.
So much for being PG.
But certain people that walk in the ring with a cigar and a torn sweatshirt might have done a few things I would have never done!
Roma, I'm sorry. So are you insinuating here now, and like the kid said, so much for keeping it PG for Roma, are you saying and indicating that maybe he was a Pickle Schniefer? I'm just saying. I'm trying to grasp the whole theory here. I notice, Roma's very candid. He's one to talk if you've ever seen his shoot video. And if you ever gone to the Paradise website and got glorified, which is Roma's shoot video.
Well, let me tell you something.
He talks about listen, he's no one to say anything to us about it being a PG show. He talks about racism in the WWE. He talks about the Ring Boy scandal. He talks about fudge packing. He talks about all kinds of stuff that he wasn't involved with. And Roma was a star. He was the first one to knock out. I don't care about the FTC. We're throwing it up the air. Roma's going to kick his ass. Mancini, I said I wasn't going to do this anymore.
Listen. There's no doubt, though, if
Sorry.
Roma were here right now.
Fans, I'm sorry.
I'll make Roma's argument for him. What he will say right now is there's a big difference between some kid turning into this podcast compared to somebody taking out their bank card and paying $9.99 to listen to Glorified, to listen to all that backstage candid truth.
Money well spent.
That he says. Let me tell you something. If if you're a wrestling fan and you don't buy it, you got to be crazy, because if there are any, especially fans over 35 or 40, if you ever have any wonder what is going on behind the scenes of pro wrestling, if Glorified doesn't tell you, nothing will. And for $10, that's well invested. You can't go wrong. But
Roma is legendary for his shoot videos.
I was told back in the 80s, listen, you don't have to have sex. You just lay back and they want to play with it for a while. And I said, you know what? I'll keep losing. You know what? The people go on YouTube and they watch my stuff. You go on the WWE Network and watch my stuff and go, geez, the guy just lost and he never threw a punch. But I'll tell you what, people, watch me walk down the street at 52 years old. My head's high.
Both of them, Mancini.
High. My head's high. You know why?
Hey, so is Roma. So is a lot of other men. Big Steve
because
Tracy, Paul Perez. That's
I
right.
never had to wipe my mouth to get the semen off of it.
Wow. Fans, I want to apologize, and then after that, tell you to go fuck yourself. I hope you're listening. This is what you get here at Mario Chaos and the Kid podcast. Thank you, fans, so much for listening. And this is all true, real-life stuff here that we're talking about. And as much of it as a work as far as our characters and the way we act, the stories are 100% real and truth. And we appreciate you listening, so I'll bring it down there, Chaos, for a second.
Let me tell you
But
something.
I want you to, before we go back into the insanity, you're going to tell me something. I want the legendary Gorilla Monsoon's son, Joey Morella, his impersonation of Pat Patterson.
Oh, it wasn't his impersonation of Pat Patterson.
Break it down, Mancini.
All right, so Joey, the late Joey Morella, what a great kid. Joey and I with our baseball gloves in the parking lot having a catch because he was a double-A pitcher.
Oh, he was a hell of an athlete.
Oh,
Morella.
he was a hell of a Gorilla Monsoon's kid, and he happened to be the comedian in the dressing room. So, if you will, kid,
pay attention, kid. Write it down.
there was a menage a trois going on in the WWF. Okay, so the person in the middle.
I don't think the kid knows what that means, Mancini.
Okay,
I don't know what that means.
it's a threesome.
Oh,
It's a three men.
Kind of like two of your buddies there at Open Table Podcast.
the more the merrier.
Three men and one in the middle. Remain nameless, a torn sweatshirt and a cigar.
Would that be Brooklyn Brawler? You said remain nameless. I don't want to use any names.
So
Well, who gives a fuck at this point?
Morella would imitate him getting up in the morning between these two guys, Louis and Pat Patterson. Okay.
No names.
Listen, I am Mario Mancini. Okay, I am Mario Mancini, and I'm not ashamed of that. And I was with the World Wrestling Federation, is now the WWE, from 1984 to 1992. I'm very appreciative of Vince McMahon. I believe in my heart that because Vince was running such a monster of a company that he didn't know 99% of this stuff that was going on. Okay, he relied on people.
He relied on the wrong people.
He relied on the wrong people to keep him abreast about what was going on in his company. And he trusted those people, and I believe that he really didn't have a lot of knowledge of what was going on in his company.
Well,
However,
and if he did, maybe he did not inquire it. But Vince McMahon, I can be akin to, let's not get crazy here. I don't want to get off the ropes and off the rails here like last week. Nothing happens in Penn State without Joe Paterno knowing about it.
Listen.
Let me say this again. Nothing happens in Happy Valley without Joe Paterno knowing about it. Do you understand what I'm saying? In other words, nothing happens in the World Wrestling Federation or the WWE without Vincent Kennedy McMahon knowing about it some way, somehow, some shape, some form.
Let's digress.
Okay.
Then, okay? Let's digress. We went, okay, this is going to take a while. We
have plenty of Perez. We have time.
We went.
Perez said we can go to midnight.
We went from a man who just took over the business from his father who passed away.
Great man.
Okay.
Great family.
Who had one territory. Okay, one territory.
And that was the Northeast.
That was the Northeast.
New England.
Okay. Now, come late 84, 85, he starts branching into Canada. He cuts a deal with Stu Hart. Okay. Now, all of a sudden.
That started the train rolling.
Okay. The right place at the right time. Hulk Hogan comes in. Okay. He's got a lot of creative people around him. He starts this rock and wrestling thing.
Unbelievable.
Brings in Cyndi Lauper. Okay. And has the Hulkamania is born. And folks, if you want to see a gas, this is a gas to me. 7 months before I broke into the business, my trainer, Tony Altomar, took me to Madison Square Garden, January of 84, before I broke in. 7 months before I broke in. I was actually there the night that Hogan took the belt from the Sheik. And when he throws the Sheik out of the ring, you could see me in a suit, grab the Sheik around the shoulder. And
unbelievable history.
Listen, 17 years old. I wasn't even 18 yet. Anyway, I digress.
No, but Mancini, that's a classic moment.
You have a guy who is ready for an explosion, who's preparing for this WrestleMania thing, by the way, when it came to WrestleMania, if that failed, there would have been no WWF, there would have been no WWE. Vincent Kennedy McMahon, as you say, laid his balls, his whole company on the line for a chance. and thank God it worked out for
Well,
him.
absolutely. I mean, listen.
Now you have that kind of stress going on. All right, let's just say we're delving into this new venture. You got WrestleMania 1, 2, and 3, let's say. Okay? So they're feeling their way around a dark room looking for a light, hoping that they're making all the right moves so they can start this WrestleMania dynasty. You don't think Vince McMahon had his head in other things rather than looking to see who's sucking whose dick? Are you crazy?
Listen, Mancini. There's a lot to be said for that. He had a lot going on. And listen, and I agree with you. No one is more of a fan and a mark and knows the history and wanted to get there where you were more than me. You know that.
I know that.
The passion I have for this.
I know that.
It comes across.
Listen, I've seen guys. I don't know if Perez was there yet, but I've seen Joe Murdo leave that dressing room at Poughkeepsie in tears. And I was hot. And I walked up to the chief and I go, why'd they get rid of Murdo? Why'd you get rid of Murdo? He goes, mind your own business. Get dressed, mind your own business. I go, he's a good wrestler. Why'd you get rid of him? He's too old. He was 40 years old. He was too old.
Well,
they got rid of him.
Yeah. Listen, getting back to our point, I understand what you're saying about Murdo. I remember Murdo.
So listen. So you're talking about that stuff going on. You know, and I saw it early on when Altamar was still with the office. You know what I mean? And this is where the edge came with me and Lombardi, because Lombardi was Pat's guy. I was Altamar's guy. But
listen, we're not making any judgments here. No judgments.
Listen, ultimately, Altamar would get fired for many reasons. He'd end up getting fired, and Pat ends up becoming the VP. Now, listen, if Tony became the VP instead of Pat, I would have been where Lombardi was without doing the favor.
Mancini, are you saying that you could have been tough Tony Altamores?
Listen, I'm just saying I could
Let me not go down that road.
I could have got a fair break.
The shit out of me.
I could have got a fair break. Listen, in 1989, and fans, this is where I'm going with this. You know what? I was there, and you know what? I've been to law school. I've graduated law school, and I've passed the bar exam in 2012. So I will tell you this. The defense to defamation is the truth. That's the defense to defamation.
Well, so you're 100% right.
I will tell you this. So,
and you cannot be
back to Joey Morella
less than truthful. So let's get back to Joey Morella.
He would imitate in the dressing room, them getting up in the morning, and when he would yawn, he would cake up a bunch of white spit around his lips, and we'd all start laughing. You know what I mean? But, you know, so saying the defense to defamation, fans, you know, you're welcome to go on YouTube and you type in sex scandal in the WWF.
Yeah, the Ring Boys.
And you will see the Cream Team and all the sexual harassment.
Hey, I get it now. Wait, I know you're serious, Mancini. I see you're heated. Let me bring some levity back to this, because Mancini is definitely getting a little emotional. You said
the thing about it is, Big Daddy, here's the deal.
Let me just throw this out there, because I got to bring some levity to this. The Cream Team you're talking about, that could be akin to some guys I know at Open Table, and I hope they're listening. Dominic, Antonio, and Chippy. That sounds like it could be the Cream Team. What do you think, Mancini?
Well, listen.
Go ahead. I wanted to throw that out there for the kid.
This all came out in 89. This all came out in 89. Pat Patterson supposedly got fired, but the truth of the matter is he was still running the show from his house.
Well, he ran the show for quite some time, brother.
The only one my heart goes out to is Terry Garvin.
I heard a lot of positive about Garvin. I never dealt with him personally. I don't know him personally.
Terry Garvin.
Either you love him or hate him.
Terry Garvin kept me booked consistently. My phone rang every day.
So you respect the man.
I respected him. He respected me. He never made a pass at me. When I found out he was that way, I was in shock. I said, he's got a wife and 2 kids.
Well, see, that's back to my point, Mancini. This is where we're, in this day and age, you kind of get frustrated with all this.
Terry Garvin treated me like gold.
Right, and that's what I'm talking about, to my point. We're in this day and age, Again, fans, to be on the serious side, we're not judging. Nobody cares. We're friendly with everybody. We said it before on these past podcasts.
The thing about it is that
in a century,
I lived it.
Listen, nobody lived it more than me. 25 years in a prison system.
I know
but
that.
You know what I'm saying.
But I lived this in the WWF. So
Relevance.
My phone rings in 1989. My mother picks up the phone, and she says, Chief Jay Strongbow's on the phone. So I pick up the phone. I go, what's going on, Chief? He goes, Vince called me. He wants me to be the booker. I said, are you going to take the job? He said, no, it's too much stress. I started yelling at him.
Well, because that would have been maybe a push for
and
Mancini.
He yelled back at me. He goes, you want me to take all that goddamn stress on just so you can go over? You know what I said to him?
Tell me.
Yes! Yes, I do!
Mancini, it was a different world back then. Getting back to my point, and then we got to get on the Friday Night Alley fights. Getting back to my point in this day and age, this is what I'm talking about. Whether it be shows that take a comedic approach towards it like Will and Grace and even True to Life. Whether it be like friends we know in the business that are great people and talented. There was no need for it to go down the way it did back in the 80s. I get it was a different time. People were apprehensive. People were afraid in all seriousness to come out. But it didn't have to go down that way. You didn't have to push it and force it on people. And in this day and age, we know that better than everyone and anyone that we are all equal. It doesn't matter LBGT. It doesn't matter what race, color, creed, sexual orientation. We have said this before, another PSA. But getting back to your stories, and that's what makes it so frustrating that because of that in that day and age, that it had to happen because we're all the same people.
Well,
getting back to Siri, we're all the same people, man. It doesn't matter.
Listen, make no mistake. What happened back then was unjust in order to get ahead. Listen,
absolutely. Same thing with the guy from Hollywood. Right. What's his name, Perez? Weinstein.
Well, yeah,
listen, it's the same stuff, man, for everybody. That's Weinstein. Right. No difference.
And there's no difference of a woman using what God gave her to get ahead and using guys to do that.
And you
guys using them.
And this is what I'm going to say about you and Roma and a lot of other guys that ended up doing the right thing, that you're sticking to your morals when I say that. You lived with a lot of these females are living and have lived for years. You have seen both sides. To be serious, what happens to these women in Hollywood and by men like Weinstein and other men that have been accused of it and been found guilty of it, you had happened to you, but in a male-dominated world. So it works both ways.
Listen, let's
talk
about Rita Marie.
But Rita Marie, the first female referee in the WWF.
Somebody else is trying to claim that they were the first female referee. They weren't. She was.
I believe you, Mancini, you are correct about that.
And she came to Altamar School, and I love her. She was a very sweet woman. It really touched me because when she would ref my TV matches, almost like a big sister, after the star left the ring and I was still down selling, she would lean over and look me in the face. Of course, nobody can see it because I'm looking up and she's looking down. And she goes, "Oh my God, sweetie, are you okay?"
Well, she was ahead of her time.
Listen, like, yeah, Rita, I'm fine.
a lady in that industry ahead of her time, like another lady that I admire, and this is all seriousness, Erin Andrews, another lady who was ahead of her time.
Yeah, but Rita, she
ahead of her time.
Advantage of, and you know what?
Listen, look what they did to Erin Andrews, and I respect that lady, kind of like Kim Jones from WFAN. These are women I respect in the business.
This woman was told she'd be on the cover of Women's Day, Time magazine.
That's to my point.
She would be and let me tell you something. Back in the 80s or the mid 80s, she had a good job at Frito-Lay. She had a very secure, good job at Frito-Lay.
You like corn chips, Mancini?
Well, Big Daddy, the history of my life, and corn chips, well, you know.
That's something we could talk about maybe another time. Corn chips.
Or we could just talk about corn in analingus if you want.
Is that Cunny's cousin, Cunnilingus? Anyway, we're getting off the rails here, fans. We just wanted to bring levity to the program. These are the things we talk about. Coming to you live from the Diadamo and Tracy Bail Bond studio here at the Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling Facility. And we cannot forget a big shout out to the folks at B Plus Player Radio, our good friend Mark Adam Haggerty for bringing you Mario and Chaos. And you know what? We're also on Stitcher. That's pretty big, man.
Let me ask you something. Could you actually meet a better person than Mark Adam Haggerty?
Let me just tell you something about Mark Adam Haggerty. Mark Adam Haggerty is probably one of the most talented, professional people I've ever met. His background in politics, his parents in the theater.
And he's an excellent human being.
Not only is he an excellent human being, you know who else along the same lines that's a super uber talented guy, and his whole family grew up in music and in theater and stuff like that. And I'd like to give a shout out to these guys also because they've been a big part of us. That's Noel from GoPro. And GoPro Wrestling, it's always a bumpy road in professional wrestling, but what a great group. They put out an excellent product. They do a lot of great work for Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling. Listen, even BodySlam.net.
Congratulations to Andrew on his new addition to his family.
That's right. Congratulations. I want a big shout out to Andrew K. Do you know that Andrew is down with a lot of the honchos in the WWE? Another dear friend, or at least somebody that said no to me at least once before when it came to the WWE, Bruce Pritchard, and something to wrestle with. Do you have, before we get on to Friday Night Alley fights and the kid, are you still with us?
I'm with you. I'm listening to all these stories. I can't believe them.
Kid, now, hold on with Bruce Pritchard for a second. Something to wrestle with, Bruce Pritchard. He does it with Conrad Thompson.
I'm familiar.
I want you to hold on to that thought.
I've heard my name once.
How about Dominic Antonio and Chippy from Open Table Sportscast? Hold on to Bruce Pritchard, Mancini. I didn't say I can't even believe that you referenced what you referenced before when we talked about Bangkok last week. I thought we were off that. Virgil, boy, we went way off the rails.
Right now, I'd like to go to the WWE report with.
You could just throw PG.
No,
right
Dominic Antonio and Chippy, the producers of Open Table. Listen, Paul Perez is going to kick Antonio's ass. You know Antonio's a big boy, but Perez is no one to be trifled with, kid. Say something for 30 seconds so your fans and the females know that you're here. Say something.
How you doing this week, kid?
How you doing, kid?
I'm doing great. Just had my finals today, and now it's winter break. I don't have to go back until I got a trip coming up to Disney in a month.
To Bangkok, I thought.
No, to Disney.
Oh, he's going to. That's a lot
Disney.
different than the trip.
Are you going to miss the show?
I'll try to call in.
Oh, speaking of call-ins, man, see, this is something that we need to address. There's a good friend of mine who I know that listens to this podcast, and he's a little sour on the business and the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Get him on the phone.
And Joe Bruin.
Get him on the phone.
And his name would be a good friend of mine, a brother of mine, Mancini. He would fit right in here at Paradise Alley.
Get him on the phone.
I was best man at his wedding.
Well, he must be a very close brother of yours.
The Jackmaster.
The Jackmaster.
Well, he did that a lot, too. John Diamond.
Well, why don't you get John on
Everyone's
the phone?
very familiar with him around here, but I think that John, and I'm going to throw him out there, I don't really give a fuck.
He's really mad at Joe Bruin.
I don't really give a fuck if I catch heat with him right now because he's my brother. He can't do anything to me because he loves me. So it's like you getting mad at me or Paul Perez or Big Steve. It doesn't really fucking mean anything.
It doesn't mean
because you
anything.
get over it because you're brothers.
Yeah.
But John
can't live without you, Big Daddy.
Correct. Thank you. I don't fucking believe that for 1 second. Anyway, John was a very well-accomplished grappler, and he's been talking to me about the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame since before Joe started back up again and continued with the great project and the great New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and I would have said that whether I'm an inductee or not, and FanFest. But John feels like he was maybe slighted or overlooked in the past, long before we ever started talking about it here recently, since you've been inducted in 2014 and then Roma last year.
So does he think he should have been inducted in like FanFest 2 or 3?
I don't know.
Or 1?
I don't know if he thinks that. No, I definitely don't think he thinks that. I just think that he thinks by now, FanFest 7.
Well, Big Daddy.
Seeing that some of the people that are already in there, it sounds like sour grapes a little bit to me, but I love John. I'm going to say
listen.
He's earned it. He's been in the camp. He's been in the ring with everybody. People know who he is. He's got a little sour grapes, I'm going to say. And then he sees his brothers going in.
Well,
he's more qualified than a lot of guys going in, Mancini.
After June 7th and 8th, you'll be able to say this, but the same thing I'm going to say right now. I am a representative of the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame because I'm a member of the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Well, I told him that.
And I know Joe Bruin.
Great man, Joe Bruin.
We're very close.
He's a good man.
But I have to tell you a story.
Tell me a story.
See, I kind of misread Joe Bruin a little bit. You know what I mean? Because I figured, well, whatever I ask Joe for, he'll always say yes to me, right?
Joe's a good man.
Well, I got news for you. He doesn't. He runs, he's a very reasonable man. He's a very kind man, huge family guy. But
you told me he's very tough.
He runs with an iron fist. So
Yes.
we were in line. I went to an event. I met Joe there, and I had pitched him a wrestler. He didn't have an explanation for me. He just looked at me dead in my face and went, no.
Well, Mancini, I
and
am
I said,
familiar with that.
Okay, Joe.
And it wasn't because the wrestler wasn't qualified. It's just the way Joe Bruin does things and the way he sees things. Like, listen, Joe knows the Jackmaster. There's no question about it. He belongs in any Hall of Fame. But I told John it's not about that.
Yeah, but Joe...
It's not about that.
Joe's not a heat... Joe Bruin's not a heat guy. He doesn't exist in Bruin's life.
I know that.
I'm
well aware
listen,
of that.
he is well-versed, obviously, in professional wrestling. I call him the Vince McMahon of the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
He is well-versed in pro wrestling. And the gentleman that I mentioned to him, he probably thought off the top of his head, he reviewed his career really quick, and he went, no.
Well, I know one thing for sure when it comes to Joe Bruin. Whether you're in or out, it's nothing personal. And that's what I relayed to my brother. And he's okay
really
with
that
it.
upset. But obviously he's really upset with Joe Bruin.
I don't think he's upset at Joe Bruin, Mario. He's not upset at Joe Bruin per se. He's upset, I think, or I don't even want to say upset. He's disappointed at maybe the process, and then recognizes there's a lot of great athletes that have gone in there that he feels, in his opinion, that he's just as good as some of the men that are already in there. And he's been wanting this, and maybe he could have broached it. I'm throwing it out there right now, but it is what it is. He's a great man. Joe's a great man. It's nothing personal. I said this to Diamond. We've texted back and forth. He understands. He's accepted it. He actually wants to come on and talk about it. He's got a lot to bring to the table.
Well, get him on the phone.
Well, we can't do it now, but we will. We're going to have John Diamond on.
Well,
and again,
listen,
it's not directed at Joe Bruin.
Well, no,
that I know for sure.
I'll admit this to you.
I hope you're listening, Diamond.
Well, listen, I'll admit this to you, and it's a shitty thing to admit. I'll admit this. If you were with the WWF back in the 80s, okay, if you were with the WWF back in the 80s for a decent amount of time, you're shoo-in.
I agree.
Right, Bruin's going to say, you're in. You know what I mean? You're with the biggest organization. You know what? Here's an example. You know who I friend requested today? I saw him on Facebook. I friend requested him. Dusty Wolf.
Dusty Wolf. I remember Dusty Wolf.
Right. So
professional.
So if Bruin knew Dusty Wolf was in the, he'd go, oh man, I'd love to induct him in the Hall. You know what I mean?
Mario, comes down to ego and pride, and I know John as good as anyone. It comes down to ego and pride.
I'm just saying,
from the heart, he's a great person.
I'm just saying, it's hard.
Absolutely.
Big Daddy, and you're going.
Listen, I can't even believe it. I still think it's a work.
No, it's not a work. And you're going
Perez.
in.
Who knew Perez?
You're going in.
Guardian of Chaos.
Listen,
I can't believe it.
You're going in, and it's very difficult for an independent guy.
Listen, you don't think I know that, Mancini? This was unexpected. I am forever humbled and grateful. And this has nothing to do with me. I'm just talking about a brother, because I know this has been something that he talked about when Joe was originally at one time. You remember, we got to get on to Paradise Alley. We're like almost 50 minutes in. Joe was going to shut down the New England Hall of Fame at one time, and he came back stronger than ever, and now it's a force to be reckoned with. And I got to tell you, and I've said this to him via the text, I think John's a little off base on it. I agree with some of it, but I think he's a little off base. Joe Bruin, he's no one to question. He knows what he's doing.
Well, yeah,
that's my opinion.
He does know.
And it's not even about all that. And who knows? Who knows what could happen someday? But you make valid points, Mancini. Valid points. Not enough chicanery tonight. Let's get on to the Friday Night Alley fights.
50 minutes in, let's get the PAPW.
Let's get the PAPW. Oh, Mancini, the third vertebrae on the lower lumbar region is very sore tonight.
You doing some extracurricular activities last night?
Well, I'm not doing much of anything lately except working. Kind of like Mancini and Perez. You know, he worked a double shift and came all the way down here,
That's insane.
Well, Perez is insane. So, Mancini, you will be here Friday. Because you know who's not going to be here? The kid. He's going to Ring of Honor at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City. But we're not talking about that.
I've been to the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City.
Been there once.
I brought my daughter there about 5 years ago to see oh man,
it wasn't the Village People.
No, it
was
wasn't Slipknot. It was name a couple of them groups.
One Direction.
No, like
YMCA.
no, those kind of. No, like that though. What do they call?
What year are we talking about here?
Well,
Before my time?
No, it was like 2014, 13.
Justin Bieber, One Direction, Big Time Rush.
No,
the kid knows all of this stuff though.
no.
5 Seconds of Summer.
No. They're no. It was like
that was 7 minutes in heaven.
Nah, it was what's the name of that group?
Imagine Dragons.
I like 80s disco.
No.
Panic at the Disco.
No.
Let me go through my.
No.
Let me go through my music.
Somebody
kit.
had the T-shirt on the other day.
Let me go through my music.
There was a woman in the band. A woman.
The Spice Girls.
No, it's not that kind of music.
The Cheetah Girls.
No, it's not that kind of music.
The Pussycat Dolls.
No.
This is what you get here on Mario Chaos featuring the kid.
Lil Wayne.
No.
Well, it's definitely not Lil Wayne.
No.
Where'd that come
not
from?
that kind of
I said a
music.
M-A-S, a T-E-R, a G with a double E.
No, well, I
I said I go
gotta
by the
text her now.
unforgettable name of the man they call it Master G. Well, my name is known all over the world, all the foxy ladies and pretty
Imagine
girls.
Dragons. I don't know who you're really hitting at here.
They're online right now, folks. That's why I'm singing, coming to you live from the Diadamo.
Oh, we're
and
waiting.
Tracy
I'll tell you
studio
who I hate.
here at Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling. Since they're looking up for that, let's talk about Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling. That's something I would love to get into. That's something that Paul Perez and I have been talking about for weeks. Your Mount Rushmore of professional wrestlers and honorable mentions. I don't know if we're going to get into that, Perez. I don't know how much time we have. How long are we in, Perez? We're almost an hour in. Where did the time go? All right, let's hold off on that, Perez. Let's go to this Friday. Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling presents Friday Night Alley Fights, 8 p.m. bell time here down at 662 Co Avenue at East Haven, fans. Listen, fans, we got the Open Challenge Tournament for the United States Championship shot at Sergeant Murray. This is for anyone inside or outside of the company. Wait, Mancini came up with something. Go ahead.
Bullet for my Valentine.
I've never heard of that in my life. I have never heard of that.
All that for Bullet from my Valentine. It's not even February.
Well, that's the name of the group.
That's the name of the group.
That's what you've been doing all this time. We're talking about Friday Night Alley Fights, Mancini.
Oh, that's this Friday, the 14th.
That's this Friday the 14th.
Here at Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling, brought to you by the Diadamo and Tracy bail bonds.
Wow, Mancini. You could do a PSA for Viagra anytime. We've said, let me hear your PSA for it.
For Viagra?
Yeah, let me hear one.
Yeah, a PSA for Viagra.
I got you stumped.
Well. If you're with your lady and your noodles limp, you can take this blue pill. If you have an erection for more than 4 hours, fuck it. Just keep going until you don't.
Do not go to the hospital is what you're saying, right, Mancini? Boy, if we had an erection for 4 hours, man, I'd call everybody I know. Fans, we got off the rail here again. Friday Night Alley Fights.
Nightwish, Winter Sun.
Oh, we're still on music.
Is that a dojo?
Fans, first round this week, I'm going to run down some of the grapplers that will be here for Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling. Ty Shine is going to be here, the man with the best brows in the business. Nutrius X, the King, all hail the King, will be taking on the cleanly shaved Gino, the god of sexiness. Now, this has been one hell of a feud, one hell of a war. That's going to be in the first round of the tournament. Also, Zachariah Gibbs, the IC champion, is going to be here. Aaron Bradley, the heavy hitter Shay Cash, the flamboyant one Kenny Roberts. They're all going to be here, Mancini. Maxim Morozov. And guess what's happening, kid? The former champion, Showtime Marcel Williams, returns for all you chump suckers that are going to be down here on Friday Night Alley Fights. Who else is going to be here, kid? What about tag teams? Do you know who's going to be here?
I'm just looking forward to Final Battle. I've been looking
But that's why I got to ask you. Their house, their rules, the House of Pain, defends the tag team titles. It's for an opponent to be announced. What was that, Mancini? You got to take a dump?
No, I got a Viagra stuck in my throat. Now I have a stiff neck.
Mancini. Now that's a PSA. That's what I'm talking about, Mancini. Boy, what a show we've had here. Fans, we're still talking about alley fights. We have to talk about
Which is here at Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling, 662 Co Avenue, Unit 2, on the 14th of December.
The United States Championship Tournament is that night.
Ralph Murray.
First round.
Sergeant Ralph Murray.
To see who gets a shot at the Sarge.
Who's driving the truck?
Who's driving the truck, Mancini?
Sergeant
Murray, and nobody does it better.
So does the winner of the tournament get to drive the truck too?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure about that. It depends on whether they have a CDL. I don't think
that makes Sergeant Murray relinquish his position.
Mancini. You know who else is going to be here? Ronnie Ribbs, who I know nothing about.
Does he come on barbecue sauce?
He's a good guy, right, Perez? I heard. I don't. Oh,
I love him.
There you go.
I love that guy.
You love Ronnie Ribbs.
I love Ronnie. I love him. He looks like, I love that dude. I want him booked on a house show.
I have heard good things. I don't know. I haven't seen him personally. You know who else is going to be here that I like? Big Cal Stevens from the Filthy Family. I know he's also going to be here. So fans, it is a stacked card. Not only will you see Mancini in person and Paul Perez, two legends of the ring. I'll be floating around somewhere. And of course, maybe the former Four Horsemen, Paul Roma, will be here. We're not sure of that. You'll see all the champions, Zachariah Gibbs, the House of Pain, former champ Showtime Marcel Williams, Sergeant Murray, Kenny Roberts. I mean, Maxim Morozov. There's a lot of people going to be here.
Speaking of Four Horsemen, do you realize on June 7th and 8th, 2019, at the Crown Plaza, the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame will have Barry Windham, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, and Paul Roma.
Wow. A reunion, so to speak, of the Four Horsemen.
Now, I do realize
not the originals, not Ric Flair.
The absentee guy is Ric Flair.
Well, hey, it is what it is.
But those gentlemen will be at the New England Pro
Those
Wrestling
gentlemen are legends.
Even
one of them. Every bit of legend of Ric Flair.
Even though my man Joe Bruin's getting some heat for John Diamond.
Unnecessary, in my opinion. But I always have to give a voice to the voiceless sometimes. It has nothing to do with the Guardian of Chaos. Listen, I got a boner that I'm just going in. Mancini, listen, and I'm going to say this the night of whatever speech I happen to give, whether it's 3 seconds or 30 minutes. There's 3 plaques I've earned in life. Well, that I will be earning. One was 25 years in the Department of Correction and Hazardous Duty in a maximum security prison. Number 2 is being named the Independent Professional Wrestling Manager of the Year in professional wrestling. Because make no mistake about it, I was the biggest, baddest, ass-kicking manager you'll ever want to come across. The 3rd plaque will be if I make it to June 7th. In the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, because there's nobody that's more stunned and humbled than the Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy.
Well, I'm sure, Big Daddy.
And I tell it like it is.
I have 3 plaques, too.
Run them down, Mancini.
My first divorce decree from the court, my second divorce decree from the court, and my 3rd divorce decree from the court. Very proud of all 3 divorces.
Who are you, Zsa Zsa Gabor?
Mickey Rooney, right?
Mickey Rooney. Now, kid, let's get on to the kid here. Now, hey, listen, you know what I say. What kind of plaques do you have? Open table.
Right now, I'd like to go to the kid for the WWE report.
Well, kid, yes. Paul, we got about 3 minutes, 30 seconds. All right, kid, you're on. Mancini are going to sit right here and watch the kid. Put Mancini, watch him. Look at him. Say something funny, kid.
Say something funny. Well, there is something funny about the WWE right now. They just hit another all-time low for viewership for Raw. I actually watched it last night. Once I heard there was going to be a TLC match last night.
I will not watch Raw. I will depend on JD from New York and off the script.
I wasn't going to watch it, but then when I heard there was going to be a TLC match last night. I tuned in. Also, USA told Raw.
Listen, I don't give a shit about the WWE product right now. I want you to talk about, we only have 5 minutes left, my friend. I want you to talk about, we have Friday Night Alley Fights this Friday. You're going to be at the Hammerstein Ballroom in the Ring of Honor. I want you to briefly break that down because fans listen to this not only for Paradise Alley, but for Ring of Honor, New Japan, Impact. Let's go. Not Charlie Brown, Bone and Lucy and a Cooley.
Listen.
Mancini is off the rails. Perez too.
This guy's going to beat up this woman.
So what's going on here, kid? Friday, Hammerstein Ballroom, Ring of Honor. We're almost ready to wrap it up. It's unbelievable. You know what else is something that the fans got to take a look at? Arrow Lucha. That's coming out. Unbelievable. Rey Mysterio, Arrow Lucha. And Ring of Honor this Friday is
Big Daddy.
Final Battle. Kid, say something. Here's Mancini's
I'm looking up the card for Final Battle.
That looks like a dog's tail wagging. What the hell is that? Peppa, you know what we're Peppa knows what we're talking about, Mancini. You know that, right? So what about Final Battle, since it's the final closing minutes here? Ring of Honor, Hammerstein Ballroom.
I got Jay Lethal versus Cody Rhodes for the ROH World Championship.
That's for the heavyweight title. Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare.
Which talks of him going to WWE. SCU versus the Briscoes versus the Young Bucks and an ROH Tag Team Championship ladder war.
That's Jay and Mark Briscoe. Them boys. SoCal Uncensored, that's Kaz and Scorpio Sky, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the Jackson boys and the Young Bucks, I mean, they're ahead of their time. And a ladders match. I mean, listen, Final Battle, what else do you have? I worked with Jay Lethal before, kid. You know that, right? Jeff Cobb versus Adam Hangman Page for the ROH Television Championship. Jeff Cobb, new pickup. Listen, Jeff Cobb is a man beast as the Ring of Honor Television Champion. And listen, Hangman Page is an unbelievable, talented veteran, but Jeff Cobb, in my opinion, is going to run right through him.
Over half of the people on this card can end up in WWE by WrestleMania.
This other guy, I believe, worked with Paradise Alley back in October of last year for the Evolve. No, not that's the baseball player. Zack Sabre Jr. against Jonathan Grisham.
He was excellent.
That was unbelievable.
That was unreal.
Also,
someone you've worked with. Flip Gordon versus Bully Ray.
Yeah, WWE Hall of Famer Bully Ray, the Dudley Boys. That's right. He's going up against Flip Gordon. Mancini, put that back in your pants.
It's an I Quit match.
Press turned me down.
Yeah, listen. Also, there's the Women of Honor Championship. Sumi Sakai, Kelly Klein, Karen Q, Madison Rain.
Bless you.
Oh, thank you, Mancini. Listen, listen, I love
Did you just
Ring of Honor. Dalton Castle, Matt Taven. I even think Christopher Daniels is going to be on there. The Fallen Angel.
Against Marty Scurll.
The villain.
The villain.
Mancini, I know you don't watch the product.
Listen to me. Hold on, I recognized was Matt Taven.
Well, Taven, yeah, because he's a big time in the New England Northeast area. You don't watch the WWE, and I don't really either. The kid makes me watch it. But let me tell you something about the product of Impact and Ring of Honor. Perez can vouch for this because I know he's a student of the game himself. It's a pretty damn good product. They're putting out a good product. So is MLW. Some of these other groups, Lucha Underground. You could appreciate, I think, some of the work and talent for Impact and Ring of Honor. Listen, the kid's going to be
stock went up since Holiday has signed a contract.
Well, MLW is unbelievable. Look for a big breakout for Holiday in 2019.
Oh, Holiday's going to forget it.
Kid, final thoughts on Final Battle this weekend.
Final Battle. It's going to be hot. They got a good card. But the thing is, this could be some of the last matches for some of the guys on the card because they could be headed to WWE. Mainly the Elite, guys in the Bullet Club. I think they're going to be jumping ship because money talks and bullshit walks.
Wow.
So.
Who are your sources, kid? Where do you get this from? I know you do a lot of research with a lot of kidding around here. The podcast is almost over. Thank God the kid is here to bring some levity. But where do you get these rumors from, and what talent in particular do you think?
The Young Bucks,
go ahead.
We're losing them.
We're not losing them yet. Listen, a yawn is just a silent scream, kid. So go ahead. The Young Bucks.
The Young Bucks, Cody, Marty Scurll, Hangman Page. Cody actually turned down a WWE offer a couple weeks ago. Couple promotions, they're sending a cease and desist orders to WWE because WWE is in talks with some promotions wrestlers while they're still under contract. So they're trying to steal those couple people from those promotions. They're targeting ROH, Impact.
Listen, there's a lot of groups out there. Mancini, since we're talking about the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, who is changing the wrestling industry. You got a cramp in your leg. Kid, massage the cramp on his leg.
Listen.
Dusty Rhodes, give me your a quick story as we close out the 5th edition of Mario and Chaos featuring the Kid. I want to hear because you know I had the chance to work with Dusty. I've sent you the videos with Kamala. Give me a Dusty Rhodes remembrance, Mancini, as we head out.
I think Perez has a better Dusty Rhodes story than I do.
Perez, do you want to come sit over here on a microphone? And
well, the only thing I could tell you is this: Virgil was Ted DiBiase's sidekick, right? The $1 Million Man's sidekick. Now, at that...
Every man has his price,
at that time, Vince and Dusty Rhodes, they were going at it. Right? They were going at it.
The American dream.
Dusty was with another organization, and, they were bumping heads. So Vince, in all his glory, decides to get Mike Jones and name him Virgil. Because that's Dusty Rhodes'
legendary story, Mancini.
His real first name. But Dusty was kind of white. So he took
he identified with every race. He was the people's champion.
He was. So when the WCW got their own manager, of course they called him Vince.
Right. Unbelievable.
So that was a little war going on between Vince McMahon and Dusty Rhodes.
That was the Monday Night Wars.
The Monday Night Wars.
Mancini, this is what this podcast brings that no one else has. And listen, due to budget cuts, the light at the end of the tunnel has been turned off. I'll say that to say this.
We're done, Big Daddy?
Apparently. Kid, do you want to say something?
I hate my fucking math teacher.
That's not what you said earlier. You hate your math teacher. That's not what you said earlier.
Your math teacher doesn't listen to this podcast. I don't give a fuck.
Say what you said earlier to me and Perez.
I said if you thought the Brooklyn Brawler is a cocksucker, you should be my math teacher.
Oh my God, this kid.
And then you called him a what?
Listen.
You said your math teacher was a dick.
Here's the scary thought, Big Daddy. Listen,
I can't believe you
here's
said
the
that.
here's a scary thought. We are like this in our 50s. We would never
He's
have...
only 19!
We would never have the brass...
19!
We would never have the brass balls this kid has.
He's got huevos.
Imagine in 5 to 10 years, this kid is going to be electric.
5 years. I'll give him 3 years. Hey, listen, I always say the same. This is what I say about the kid.
And by the way, the big... Oh my God.
Go ahead, say it, Nancy. I don't have nothing to say.
Did he debut in Ring of Honor yet, or NXT? The big Russian kid there,
Lars Sullivan,
Dijak.
Oh, Dijak.
Have you seen Dijak?
He's been in NXT.
He's been in NXT.
Listen, I believe Dijak has Donovan Dijak. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I believe he's.
I
in
met
NXT.
him in New Orleans. He hasn't debuted yet. He's been doing some work.
Yeah, but he's been there for over a year now.
I know.
He's an unbelievable talent, Dijak.
I just hope he's not one of those guys they took on and they're just going to cut loose.
No, he's been working like house shows and stuff like that. He'll be debuting soon.
Nice kid.
Because Lars is going up, so they're going to need another big guy.
Nice kid.
Lars is unbelievable. Listen,
Nice
you
kid.
know Dijak, yeah?
Yeah, nice kid.
He was an unbelievable worker here in this area. He's definitely headed for stardom.
Yeah. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we will be here next week, and we will try to give you a good show. And we will try to figure out something for the Christmas and New Year's holiday, because we certainly wouldn't want to deprive you good people of this podcast. So till then, we'll see you next week.